Yo, what's up everyone? It's me again, back with another Boneshatter video. Can you get double damage on Boneshatter using Hydrosphere, and can you get double damage on Boneshatter using CWDT Bodyswap? These are questions that I occasionally get in comments, and I also saw that PoopButts2000 made a video recently talking about melee slash abuse and quad damage Hydrosphere interaction. I highly recommend you check out this video because it's pretty informative. But I decided to finally investigate these interactions for myself. And so the purpose of this video is going to be to deep dive into the mechanics of Boneshatter specifically, or any trauma skill with Hydrosphere and with CWDT Bodyswap, to see if you really can get double damage. And for a TLDR, for you guys who are wondering, yes, you can get double damage using these interactions, but it also comes at a very high opportunity cost, which is roughly 50% of your damage, resulting in what I believe is an overall zero-sum game. However, it's very easy to get, sidetracked and baited into like something here that you think is double damage, but it actually isn't. So in this video, I want to just go into that and just do a deep dive. And then maybe, I believe that these interactions are not good because they don't really improve your damage overall, but maybe someone in the comments of this video is smarter than me and can come up with some ideas that actually work or provide some tangible bonus that is worth it. Cool. So that being said, let's get into the video. So for those of you who don't know, there's a pretty well-established mechanic with Hydrosphere and Melee Splash, where you can basically melee splash off of the Hydrosphere. So quickly to demonstrate this, you have a Hydrosphere here, right? And you can basically hit it, which creates a melee splash, as you can see. But by default, you can only hit it every 1 second, as it says on the gem. Can only be hit once every second. However, if you do Battlemage's Cry with 2 Hydrospheres, actually, you can, if you hit an enemy with this setup, you can actually hit the Hydrosphere every time that it exerts the attack. So if you see here, it's like 1, 2, 3. Every time it explodes, it got hit. So it constantly creates new Hydrospheres, and then every time you create a Hydrosphere, you can hit it again in Melee Splash, and that's the main idea of that. And then basically you use additional strike with this to get double damage every time you exert an attack. However, the downside of this is that it only lasts for the number of exerts that you have, and then after that it's back to hitting it every 1 second. So unless you invest heavily into Warcry CDR and maybe even take the double Warcry exert here, it's just not very good, especially in Boneshatter, because Boneshatter in endgame attacks 5 times a second, and by default Battlemage's Cry has a cooldown of 8 and it only exerts 5. So that's like getting double damage every 1 second, every 8 seconds, and then you have to constantly press Battlemage's Cry, which takes time to cast, so it's just not worth it. You could invest into Warcry speed with things like urgent orders, but then you still have to press the button, and I don't think it's worth it. You also could invest more into Warcry exerts by doing things like auto exertion plus Deep Breath's Wheel plus Warbringer. And then if you fully invest into it, you can get it to a point where you can reduce the cooldown to 3 seconds, and then you have 10 or 12 exerts, which is 33% more damage overall, because every 1 second in 3, or every 2 seconds in 3, you would have double damage. So it's somewhere between 30 to 60% more damage depending on how much you invest into it. But then the problem is that taking Warbringer results in losing the Rite of Ruin node, which is 30% more damage in my PoB. Right? It's 30% minus damage. In addition, taking points in the tree causes you to lose skill points, which also reduces your damage drastically, because Boneshatter builds require a lot of nodes to be good. So basically what I'm saying is that yes, you can get double damage, but it's situational. In fact, I also was going to show this at the start of the video. Here I have some different footage. So for all these clips, the left is control and the right is experimental. The control is just attacking with Boneshatter, and the right is some experimental double damage tech. So if I just play this footage here, control versus Battlemage Hydrosphere with no investment. you can see that there is a drastic damage increase while the exerts are up. And in fact, if you see here, you know, this double damage setup killed the boss much faster. But, you know, of course, the opportunity cost is that you have to invest heavily into it, which ends up reducing your damage by a lot. And I don't think it's worth it personally. Now, that's the main idea with Hydrosphere. And then there's another interaction with Bodyswap, CWDT Bodyswap. And the main idea of this is that if you combo this with some source of strike skills target previous location, you can body swap and then the blue clone can hit again. So this interaction is basically like this. You have like a blue dude that pops up and it attacks at the last location you were in. If you stand in one spot, it doesn't trigger. So you have to move a minimum distance for it to trigger. So you could stutter step like this, but then you would lose a lot of damage and have a massive headache. So you want to automate it using body swap. And if you body swap, you can basically always count as moving, and then the ghost dude can hit. So this does result in double damage, as I'll demonstrate here. So we can go ahead and play this. Control versus CWDT body swap. So let's go play the clip. So as you can see here, once the trauma ramps up and the body swap happens, like the damage improvement is pretty drastic. And you can see here that with the body swap variation, the boss died like with, you know, it basically is like double damage, right? It's just not double damage because the trauma needed time to ramp up. But yes, you do get double damage with CWDT body swap. However, there is once again a downside. And the downside of this is just the opportunity cost. The main downside of this setup is you need to get the Ghost Strike. So in order to get that, you either have to take Ancestral Fury, which means you have to lose probably Rite of Ruin, because if you lose Core Dancer, you have no sustain for trauma. So if you lose Rite of Ruin, it's just minus 30% damage. So it's like minus 30% damage right off the bat, which makes your damage go from 5.8 to 4.1. And then you get this damage conditionally only when you have high trauma, right? And then if you get double damage at 100% uptime, it's like 8 million, whereas the control was like 6 million. So it's like you get like 33% more overall damage only on single target and only if you're continuously attacking. And there's some problems with this because if you have low trauma, it's just not going to be double damage at all, right? And then also losing attack speed means that you have less ramping of trauma. Also, the body swap can teleport you into weird places unless you use like body swap of sacrifice. But even if it's like a strict single target environment, what I'm saying is that it's not 100% uptime on the double damage. In addition, I think that's all actually. Yeah, so basically you pay an opportunity cost for using this. You can also use the ring called Warrior's Legacy, which is here, but this gives you 20% less attack speed, and also you lose a ring slot. And if you lose 20% attack speed in a normal Boneshatter POV, you can see that your damage also goes from like 6 million to 4 million. So it's the same thing. You're basically gaining 33% like conditional damage if you use the body swap tech. If you're playing trade, maybe you can like Flush Flame Ancestral Fury. I don't know how that works, but I play SSF. So in SSF at least, I don't think this tech can work. But if you were able to magically get this node, or if you were able to magically solve your regen and you can drop Core Dancer, then you could definitely take this and it would be good. So just throwing that idea out there. I don't know, maybe next league there's a way for you to miraculously solve trauma sustain without leech, and then you can take this and have double damage on Boneshatter, which is an idea. But in the current state of the game, I don't think you can make this work, at least not in SSF. So that's the body swap interaction. And then I also explored some more interactions as well. For example, what if you combined Battlemage Cry Hydrosphere and CWDT Hydroswap? CWDT Body Swap. Do you get quad damage? So let's see what happens. So let's go play the clip. So here we have Control versus Battlemage Cry Hydrosphere and CWDT Bodyswap. So the combination of the two synergies before. So if you play this clip, you can see the Hydrosphere is out, the damage is there, and then the Bodyswap happens, and there is a damage increase, and as you can see, it's like double damage compared to control, but I don't think it's quad damage. I don't believe that it's quad damage. The Ghost Strike is definitely not hitting the Hydrosphere. Someone on Reddit in some comment said that it got stealth patched, I think, which I believe to be true. I couldn't find any documentation on it, but given my testing, it would definitely seem that the Ghost Blue Dude does not attack the Hydrosphere. So this setup is just double damage basically. And it's double damage because the Bodyswap is hitting the boss and not the Hydrosphere. And I think that when you do Bodyswap, it moves your character too close to the boss, and then you're not hitting it with the additional strike either. Not totally sure what's going on there, but it definitely doesn't feel like quad damage. I think this performance, the boss died with like 50% left. If you compare that to the CWDT Bodyswap, it's like roughly the same thing. So I don't think there's a reason to combine these things together. In addition, if you were to combine these together, you would have to lose a lot of, you would have to pay a heavy opportunity cost. Not only would you need to find a way to make Battlemage's Cry work with Warcry scaling, but you would also need to find a source of the strike skills target last additional location, which, it's just too much opportunity cost, so you would never do this. Now, another thing that I wanted to experiment was CWDT Hydrosphere. And this is an idea that's been floating around, but it actually doesn't work. Let's play the clip. So this is control versus CWDT Hydrosphere. And as you can see, the Hydrosphere is out, but the damage is the same. There's basically no change from control. Maybe just a little bit of a difference, but it's basically no damage increase. And the reason for this, which is also pretty well documented, is that when you do CWDT Hydrosphere, the ball is summoned on top of you, and then you don't hit it with the additional strike. So I'll demonstrate here, if I can find an enemy. So yeah, I'm standing here, but CWDT Hydrosphere puts the ball on me. And as you can see, the additional strike is not targeting the ball. And then if I were to move to hit the ball myself, it just goes on top of me again. So it just doesn't work at all. The additional strike will never splash off of this because the ball is on top of you. Whereas in the Battlemage Cry setup, you'll see that the ball is targeted where you hit. So you can see that there is indeed a clone that's splashing off of the Hydrosphere if there was one target there. So basically CWDT Hydrosphere never works. It doesn't do anything. Now I wanted to experiment with another idea, which is combining CWDT Hydrosphere and Bodyswap. So let's see what happens here. And the main idea here is what if Bodyswap allowed you to move around and then enable the CWDT Hydrosphere? And here you can see that, the boss dies pretty fast in this case, right? 50% remaining, but that was the same performance as the normal Bodyswap without the Hydrosphere. So I think that even though you are creating a Hydrosphere, again, I think that when you teleport with Bodyswap, neither you nor the clone hits it. So if we compare again, this is Bodyswap with Hydrosphere on CWDT. And as you can see, this is the damage output. There's some big hits there on the right, but it's the same thing as just normal Bodyswap. If we'll play this footage again, there's normal Bodyswap. You can look at the boss's health bar. Once you start to ramp the trauma stacks, it's basically the same thing. So I don't think that works at all. And then I thought, what if you changed it to put the Hydrosphere first? Maybe putting the Hydrosphere first would put the ball on you, and then the Bodyswap would move you away, and then maybe you could hit the Hydrosphere or something. But as you can see in this footage, there is no improvement over the normal Bodyswap. Once again, it's the same thing. So basically, TLDR, CWDT Hydrosphere does not work at all because it puts the ball on you. And I think that combining Hydrosphere and Bodyswap also doesn't work, because Bodyswap will like move you on top of the boss and then you'll be too close to the ball to hit it. So you basically want to choose one or the other, I think. And CWDT Bodyswap is like, you know, it is double damage, but finding the additional strike is really expensive. And unless you can find a way to sustain trauma without needing to take Core Dancer, you wouldn't do it, because losing Rite of Ruin is just too much damage loss. So I believe Bodyswap tech is only good if you could sustain trauma without Gore Dancer, and then you can just take Ancestral Fury, then it's good. But then another problem that you have to remember is that like Boneshatter builds always stack PDR. So like in top end, like in endgame Boneshatter builds, you have a lot of armor, right? So like this character in endgame has like so much PDR between armor, endurance charges, and whatever, that at max trauma, your self damage taken, where is it, is only 380, right? It's only 380. So that means that the minimum threshold for CWDT at level 1, which is 528, is like not even met at max trauma. So like, can you imagine like attacking 27 times and you did 28 times and you didn't even like proc CWDT like every attack? So it's basically going to proc CWDT like every other attack, right? Maybe even less than that while you're ramping. So unless you either find a way to increase your attack speed so much that you can actually hit yourself for a lot of damage, or unless you can like reduce your defense, which I don't see why you would do that, it's going to be pretty hard to get the true double damage effect, because you're just not going to proc the Bodyswap every attack. And then there's also the problem that you have to like ramp the trauma stacks over time. So in practice, it's not really double damage, especially not in late game, unless you can find some other interaction that allows you to have double damage more consistently, but I don't know what that is. And then, so yeah, the Bodyswap is double damage, but it's just opportunity cost is too high and the upkeep is too low in practice. And then the Hydrosphere tech does work, but like figuring out a way to scale the number of exerts like per unit of time for Battlemage's Cry is like, I don't really know if there's a good way to go about doing that, so I just don't know. Another thing that you could do is like, you just have the most simple setup, and the most simple setup is just auto exert Battlemage Cry, just 20 quality. And it's basically just like this. So this is just, you know, because quality on auto exertion and Battlemage Cry gives you CDR, right? So if you just have this 2-link with like Hydrosphere, you have 4.7 seconds cooldown and 5 exerts with 0 other investment. And that basically allows you to have double damage every like 1 out of 4 seconds, because your APS is like 4 or 5 in endgame, which turns out to be around 20 to 25% more damage. So you're basically sacrificing 15% reservation for 20% more overall damage, which is like something that you might do. But I do believe that investing more on the tree for that is not efficient. And it's also pretty hard to get reservation here, so I don't know. Maybe if there was like some way next league to get like, I don't know, some graft mods, or maybe some mods on unique items that allow you to have like faster Warcry stuff, or Warcry exert additional attacks, faster skill cooldown on Warcries, you could make this tech work and get double damage on Boneshatter, but we'll have to see. Another thing that you could maybe do is actually to use Howlcrack, and this is the final idea that I had. And so Howlcrack. So this is a new item that was released last league in Mercenaries. I don't know how easy this will be to get next league, but the main idea here is that non-instant Warcries ignore their cooldown. So theoretically, you could use this with Battlemage's Cry, Hydrosphere, and then scale heavily Warcry speed. And then you can basically like press your Warcry manually every like 1 to 3 seconds and then get double damage. but you would still have to invest into Warcry speed and maybe even additional attacks exerted to do this at all. And then you lose your helmet slot. So I don't know if that's good. Also, the idea of like pressing a Warcry every 1 to 3 seconds just doesn't sound very fun. So this is probably very suspect tech, and I don't know if this is good. I guess you could also automate this as well, which is also an idea, but then wouldn't you just die because the cooldown is ignored? Yeah, I don't know if that would work. I haven't used this item, but if you didn't have a cooldown and you had auto exertion, you would just die, right? Unless I'm missing something, I don't know. But yeah, so that's gonna be it for this video. The main idea is Hydrosphere, Bodyswap, Boneshatter, CWDT stuff. There is potential. There are mechanics that do allow you to get conditional double damage, but the conditions are pretty rough to meet, and the opportunity cost currently is very high. But I wanted to make this video, even though I don't believe it's good to do these techs in the current meta. Maybe at some point in the future, some interaction will emerge that will make these interactions actually good, and then Boneshatter can return as the best build. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys maybe learned something from this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any secret ideas. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me.